Sheikh Shadeed will enlighten us on the middle path, which Islam teaches us to be right in the middle regarding these types of issues. Inshallah, whenever you're ready, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Come on, I know we can do better than that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, so for the brothers that are sitting facing this way, what I want you to do is just turn your chair just a little bit so you're on an angle facing me. Okay? It's not rocket science. Just turn your chair on an angle where you can see me. And you can see the board. All right? Can everybody see the wall here? All right? So pay attention to this because this is your go-to right here. All right? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. So today, inshallah ta'ala, for the time that I have you guys with me, we're going to talk about navigating relationships. What is appropriate and what is inappropriate. All right, pay attention to the visuals. All right, so you have the guy over here, he wants to be in love with the girl, and it's a haram relationship. And then here you have a father with all his daughters, holding his daughters back. No, all right, because if you're going to marry one of my daughters, then you have to do it the right way. So this picture depicts to us that there's a right way and a wrong way of going about relationships in Islam. Are we clear about that? I'm sure you guys already know that. However, this is to make sure that when I meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have no excuse. Because it was explained to you. The other thing is the halal, haram, and we hear that. And if you notice, I didn't use halal and haram, I used appropriate and inappropriate. And the reason why I did that is because I think in the Muslim community we have abused these terms. These are legislative terms, legal Islamic terms, halal, haram. These are legal Islamic terms. And I think that in the Muslim community, we have abused and misused these terms. And we have made these terms such a turnoff to our children. The moment they hear halal, haram, it's like, oh my gosh, no, I don't want to hear it. All right, so changing the language up a little bit. So before I begin, I want you to understand why this is necessary. Why, to a bunch of Muslim children, both boys and girls, we have to have discussions about what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. Because things get convoluted, things get misconstrued. The Prophet ﷺ, he informed us that there would come a time, right? That there would come a time towards the latter days of the Islamic community where things would become obscure, not totally clear. All right, he said that there will come a time where yusaddaq al-kadhib wa yukadhib as-sadiq, where the person that is truthful will be deemed a liar, and the person who's a liar will be deemed truthful. Are we not living in that time? Sometimes it is overwhelmingly puzzling how a person can be a full-fledged liar, lie to people in their faces, and people believe it. It's puzzling. And how a person could be brutally honest and truthful, and people totally disregard him, totally neglect them, totally dismiss them as if they're liars. But this is what the Prophet ﷺ prophesied, that that time would come. He also prophesied that there would come a time where we would consider what is lawful to be unlawful and what is unlawful to be lawful. Meaning we would consider halal to be haram and haram to be halal. Is that not the time that we're living in now? The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned that تُنْكِرْ مَا كُنْتَ تَعْلَمْ وَتَعْلَمْ مَا كُنْتَ تُنْكِرْ, that you will tunkir, you will disregard مَا كُنْتَ تَعْلَمْ, what you used to consider halal, you will totally disregard it. وَتَعْلَمْ مَا كُنْتَ تُنْكِرْ, and you will acknowledge what you used to consider haram. Today you see Muslims doing things that yesterday it was clear that it was haram. And today we'll find the Islamic way of, painting it as being not too bad, including relationships. You have some Muslim parents who actually condone relationships between the opposite sex. Muslim parents. It's not a bad thing. They're having just a relationship. There's no sex involved. They're just talking, and they allow it. It's okay. And just yesterday, it was completely haram for you to even look in the direction of the opposite sex. And it's like the more and more we go into, the latter part of the 2000s, the more and more you're going to see Islam change in terms of the way that we practice it. Islam itself doesn't change, but the way that we practice it, it will. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that religious knowledge will be removed. Not necessarily from the hearts of the people, but because of the dying off of people who have real knowledge of the deen. He said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَقْبِضُ الْعِلْمِ, that Allah will take knowledge away, not by removing it from the hearts of the people, بِقَبْضِ الْعُلَمَاء, by the dying off of people of real religious scholars, people of real knowledge. I'm not talking about your run-of-the-mill Google scholars, internet scholars, people who read tidbits of information from here and here and lump it all together and present themselves in front of the Muslim community as if they have real knowledge. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people with real knowledge of the deen will die off. And once that happens, what did the Prophet ﷺ say? He said, يَتَّخَذَ النَّاسُ رُؤُوسَ جُهَالًا, the people will begin to take the ignorant as their leaders. فَسُئِلُوا فَأَفْتَوْا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ, they will be asked about religious matters and they will give religious verdicts and edicts without proper knowledge. فَضَلُّوا وَضَلُّوا, then they will lead people astray and they themselves will go astray. With all of that transpiring, it is easy for the intricacies of our religion to become convoluted and misunderstood. It's easy for things to become obscure, which is why we're asking, as a Muslim community, redundant questions about what is permissible, what is not permissible. You can't imagine the emails I get on a day-to-day basis. My husband divorced me. Am I actually divorced? Give me the whole rundown, the whole scenario. You don't even know if you're divorced. Why did you get married? No, it's a logical question. For the life of me, I can't understand why we go into something that involves the heart, the soul of other human beings, involve children, and we don't even understand how to go about it properly or how to get out of it properly. Yet children are born out of these situations. Hearts are broken as a result of these situations. Monsters are created because of these situations. So today, inshallah ta'ala, I want to, just kind of walk you through how to give you some tools on how to navigate relationships between the opposite sex. You guys, can you follow me? Am I boring you? Okay. Next slide, please. I need your participation, so I'm going to start with the sisters. Can someone read what's on the board for me, please? I don't want to call you out, but just volunteer, please. Okay. Relationships in Islam were meant to be intimate. Relationships between men and women were designed to be intimate relationships. What do I mean when I say intimate? What does that mean? You are our resident scholar today. You are, Allahu Akbar. Give him a round of applause. This is our resident scholar today, mashallah.
Both the husband and wife are fully committed into their relationship.
Say it again for the people in the back that didn't hear you.
Both the husband and the wife are fully committed.
Both. The intimate relationship is where both parties are committed to one another. That is the way that relationships were designed to be in Islam. See, we bring our own stuff with us, and I'm going to be partly committed. I'm going to be committed up to a certain point, right? Intimate relationships where both parties are committed to one another. Anyone else? Intimate. What does that mean? You shut it down, that's it?
Emotionally.
Emotionally, what do you mean?
It's not, when you're not in a relationship with someone, you don't fully know them on an emotional level.
Okay, so relationships in Islam were meant to be intimate, meaning there's supposed to be an emotional connection between the two, not just physical, right? Not just about physical. It's not just about sex, right? It's more about the emotion, the mental, psychological connection. Yes, very good. Somebody else in the back. I'm noticing the guys, you answer more questions now than you ever did. I sat in the back the whole time I've been here, and the women been answering all the questions. We start talking about men and women in relationships, and you guys are all in. That's good. Go for it. Yeah, you.
Me, I would say equally treating all your wives the same way.
All your wives.
Equally
All your wives.
treat your wives all the same.
Next. Right.
Okay. Alrighty then.
Don't open that door.
Okay.
Right.
He's starting controversy already.
It's the first slide.
Okay. So, moving right along. All right, you got the point. You guys, sisters, you guys agree with the responses that they gave as it relates to what intimate relationships are? That in Islam, relationships between men and women were designed to be intimate. Not just go in, take what you want from the person, right? Exploitative. Our relationships are not about exploiting one another, going in, getting what you want from the person, and then keeping it moving. That's not what relationships in Islam are about. It's about going into a relationship with someone and being able to give the person rather than receiving from the person. You guys following me? There's an ayah in the Quran. Can one of you guys finish reading this, please? Ayah in the Quran where Allah says, what? Whoever read that one, can you read the ayah to me, please? Okay, so that's an ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, هُنَّ لِبَاسُ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسُ لَهُنَّ. That your wives are a clothing for you, and you are a clothing for them. That ayah is probably one of the most definitive, one of the most eloquent and definitive verses in the Quran that describes the relationship between a man and a woman. When you put on clothing, you are covering the most intimate parts of your body from the rest of the world. And to remove that clothing in front of certain people in public, it's an embarrassment. That's what relationships between men and women in Islam represent. That your wife is a clothing for you, and you are a clothing, a garment for her. You cover each other. You guys follow me? Is that not intimate? Is that not intimate? Okay. So the next time you think about entertaining a girl for a girlfriend, the next time you think about entertaining a guy as a guy friend, I want you to think about this. If this is not what the person is offering you, then don't do it. Because you're selling yourself short. Why opt for what is less than when you can have so much more if you just wait? Why settle for a temporary solution to a long-term problem? Is love a temporary problem, or is that a long-term problem? Long-term, you need love all the way up until you die, or do you just need love for this very short window in your life? We're looking for, for long-term problems, temporary, immediate gratification. And that does not come without consequence. And we'll get to that. Okay? So that's what relationships in Islam. You guys follow me? Did I say something that is not Islamic or you don't agree with? No. Okay, next slide. Brothers, read this, please. Go for it.
Broken hearts.
No. And the other scholar in the back. Go for it.
Broken heart syndrome.
Okay. BHS. This is real. Broken heart syndrome. Right? Recent research suggests the emotional pain of a heartbreak may actually cause physical changes to the heart muscle.
Wow.
Facts. If anyone has ever been in pain, has anyone ever had their heart broken? Raise your hand. 1, 2. That's it? Only 2 people in a room of about 50 have had their hearts broken? You had 2 young people.
It's not just in relationship.
Huh?
It's not just in relationship.
Maybe her pet died.
Who broke your heart? Where is he? Point him out. How did you have your heart broken? Excuse me. Come back.
Well, it's not just in relationships that you get your
You're
heart
right.
broken.
It's not just in relationships that you can get your heart broken. All right? But it was a relationship. It doesn't necessarily have to be a relationship between you and the opposite sex. Your heart could be broken by your parents. Absolutely. Your parents can break you down. Your heart can be broken by a sibling crossing you, trading on you, not being loyal to you. Yes, absolutely. You tell someone a secret and they go and tell somebody else and you're like, how could you do that? Absolutely. But the type of heartbreak that I'm talking about is involved in a relationship. See, a lot of you guys are young and you underestimate how powerful going in and out of relationships can be. As you get older, that starts to wear and tear on your heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has only given you one heart. You don't have multiple hearts to play with. And some people, some Muslims, males and females, start off at a very young age with this whole idea of that's my boyfriend, that's my girlfriend, that's my man, that's my girl, that's my, side piece, that's my this, whatever. Whatever. And what you don't realize is that the more and more you go in and out of relationships with people, you are jeopardizing the wholeness of your heart for a real relationship. So finally, when you reach your late 20s and you're ready to stop playing and you're ready to go into a real relationship, you are so scarred and so damaged that you don't even know how to receive a good relationship. Your heart has been broken so many times that you don't even have enough trust to go into a relationship with someone and trust and believe that person has your best interest at heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَا جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِرَجُلٍ قَلْبَيْنِ فِي جَوْفِهِ, that Allah has not given any one man 2 hearts. You got one heart. Don't play with that. If you get your heart broken enough, and I'm talking to girls because this happens to you more, although with boys it happens to you as well. This is what creates the player type running through women. Because a lot of times you were hurt by a woman. You were hurt by a girl. So you make it your life's duty to run through as many girls as you possibly can, simply because this one girl turned you down or embarrassed you or hurt you, broke your heart, and this is your way, all right, of reclaiming what you believe you lost in that situation. What we're saying to you as your parents, as people who want good for you and want you to have healthy relationships, is stop subjecting yourself to being broken. Being divorced for people who are married is the greatest form of breaking a woman's heart. The Prophet ﷺ said that the woman was created from a rib. Right? إِنَّ الْمَرْأَ خُلِقَتْ مِنْ ضِلْعٍ. That the woman was created from the rib, meaning Hawa, the wife of Adam, was created from the rib of Adam. He said, وَإِنَّ أَعْوَجَ شَيْءٍ فِي الضِّلْعٍ أَعْلَاهَا. And the most curved part of the rib is the top part, meaning her mouth. There's no woman in the world, I don't care how obedient, how God-fearing she is, except that she's going to say something back to you that's going to displease you. What you are looking for is a robot. And the way that artificial intelligence is going right now, they actually have those type of robots. You might want to just go get one of those rather than getting one of these, because these women are human beings that come replete with a heart, emotions, and all of the wiring that make them who they are. And if the Prophet ﷺ, Prophet Muhammad, was subjected to mouth from his wives, then who are we to believe that our wives are not going to, from time to time, say things to us that offend us? It's going to happen. Facts. He said, if you are going to draw benefit from your woman, then you will do so while she's curved. He said, فَإِنْ ذَهَبْتَ تُقِيمَهَا كَسَّرَتَهَا وَإِنَّ كَسْرَهَا طَلَقُهَا. That if you go and try to straighten the rib, what's going to happen? You break it. It's so beautiful, this example. You see the rib here? It's supposed to be curved. If you straighten it, you're going to break it. And to break her is to divorce her. And as we're talking about marriage, divorcing a woman, even in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, to tell the person that this is over, I don't want to see you again, I don't want to be with you anymore, right? Those are painful words. Sometimes people are never able to get over that, even as young as you guys are now. But you guys understand what I'm saying to you. You only have one heart. Stop playing with your heart. This whole idea of boyfriend, girlfriend, this is my, booed up, right? I'm giving you cultural references, right? Just to show you that as a parent, I've got to know what's going on inside your heads, because I have teenage children myself. So I have to know. So anything that's out there in the atmosphere that you guys are involved in, trust and believe I'm aware of it. I'm not one of them oblivious parents that live on Mars while you here on Earth partying. No, I'm sorry. I'm right behind you. Right behind you. All right, next slide. Someone read this for me, please. Go for it. No, somebody else. One of the women. Can someone read that? Don't squint your eyes like you can't see. You can see. Can someone read that for me, please? Go for it. Okay. Once your heart has been broken, you become vulnerable, weak, vulnerable to the whispers of shaitan. Shaitan is always waiting to catch you at your most vulnerable moments. And this vulnerability, coupled with the whispers of shaitan, can lead you through doors from which you could never return. What do I mean by that? What are some of these doors that your vulnerability, coupled with the whispers of shaitan, can take you down?
Saying some people would go into drinking alcohol.
Using drugs and alcohol. Absolutely. Sometimes you can never come back from that. You can never come back from that. Sometimes it'll cause your death. You can never come back from that. Using drugs and alcohol. We know many Muslims who right now use drugs and alcohol, and perhaps a previous relationship had something to do with it. What else? Depression. It can lead to a state of depression. And then here you are trying to use Islam to get rid of it. Sister, you need to pray more. Make dua. Dua is not going to make depression go away. You understand? Dua, salat, is not going to make depression go away. What else?
Settling for less in their next relationship.
Good. Settling for less. You feel like, I'm going to go choose somebody who's safe. Everybody else is looking at you like, come on, you can do better than that. But for you, you're like, no, I know I can do better than that, but I'm going to settle because this person is safe. I don't want to be hurt again. And then you in a relationship with this person and you're miserable as hell because you know in the back of your mind you can do better than that. So you settle for less out of fear of being hurt again. What else? Huh? Bitterness. Very good. This is what turns women into feminists. Facts. Facts all day long. Show me your biggest feminist, and I can show you somewhere in her history where a man did her dirty. Facts. Facts all day long. Show me any woman who is a feminist, and I'll show you somewhere in her life she was done dirty by a man, which may not have been the main reason, but contributed to the path of treading this path of being a feminist. It could have been her father. It could have been an uncle that molested her. Could have been a grandfather who disappointed her. Could have been a boyfriend. Could have been an ex-husband. Some man somewhere in her timeline that violated her, disappointed her, that, lit the flame underneath her to go along that path. I'll give it to you. You guys are aware of Ayan Hirsi? Somali? Okay. Feminist. Used to be Muslim. I mentioned her in my book, The Revolution of Love. Yes. Where did her feminism start from? Do you know who I'm talking about? Okay. Ayan Hirsi is a Somali national, right? She was picked up by the American feminists capitalizing off of the pain and hurt that she experienced. She used to be a Muslim, converted to Christianity or some other religion, and she attacks Islam. She attacks Islam. Believes that there are verses in the Quran that need to be removed. Islam is oppressive towards women. You already know the narrative. Once they become something else, now Islam somehow becomes the devil, right? If you go back to her history, I did my research on her, read her whole bio. If you go back to her history, she was mutilated. She was mutilated in the living room of her grandmother, where she was circumcised. There was no pain medication given to her. Right there in her grandmother's living room, circumcised. She was mutilated, sometimes to the point where once that piece of flesh is removed from the private area, there is absolutely no feeling. To remove that from somebody. You understand? And believing that was from Islam. Islam has nothing to do with that. The circumcision is for the boys, not the girls. What is called khitan in Arabic. It's for the boys, not for the girls. But they destroyed this woman and then forced her into a marriage with her cousin. Someone she grew up with that was like a brother to her, forced her into a marriage with her cousin, only to be divorced, abused throughout the marriage, and then thrown away, divorced. Where do you think that's going to push somebody afterwards? Of course. And then turn around and blame Islam for all of it. Meanwhile, Islam is free from all of that. You understand? Show me any feminist, and I'll show you in her timeline where she was somehow violated, disrespected, by some man in her life which pushed her towards that trajectory. So once your heart is broken, you become vulnerable to the whispers of shaitan. And the shaitan can take the form of a human being, or it can take the form of a demonic creature that you can't see. It could be, girl, I'm tired of men, I'm tired of these brothers, I'm done with marriage, I ain't never going into that situation. That's the shaitan. Anybody who tells you to move away from something that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the shaitan, the devil's advocate. Once your heart is broken, you become vulnerable to the whispers of shaitan. This could lead you through doors from which you could never return. Well, what else? I'll take two more, because there's something that you didn't mention that is very important.
I guess it would be like a more saying, I guess something called rebound.
Rebound. Okay, that's similar to what he said. Settling. Rebound. You go in and out of relationships, trying to satisfy a void. Right? There's a void in your heart of being let go from a situation or break up, and then you feel like in order for me to make up for that, I need to jump in and out of relationships. Okay?
Joining a cult or some sort of...
While you are true, that might not be the norm for many of us, but yeah, join the cult. Go for it. Huh? Okay, cause you to engage in risky behavior. Where you go out and you start to, if you're drinking and you're using drugs, then possibly you're going to go out and commit criminal acts. Something that you guys are not stating.
Is it zina?
Go commit zina. Well, we're talking about that. You're getting out of a relationship, your heart was broken, she said that you might go commit zina. You are already committing zina. So obviously zina is not a big thing on your top of list of priorities. Last one. We're missing one. Suicide. Facts. I counseled a young Muslim sister about 4 years ago who was passed on to me by another brother. Said, sister needs some counseling, please counsel. 14 years old. She tried to commit suicide because her boyfriend dumped her. Muslim. The first time I had ever been confronted with something like this, I couldn't imagine for the life of me that a Muslim would consider killing themselves. Not because her dad molested her or raped her, but because she was in a haram relationship to begin with and was hurt in that situation. But it's real. And in recent times, Muslim children have been resorting to suicide as a means of alleviating pain that they experience, and many times because of haram relationships that they were in, that they shouldn't have been in to begin with. You guys follow me? You don't come back from that. So it's very important to be aware of what going into, premarital relationships can do to you. All right, next one. 5 ways to differentiate between appropriate and inappropriate relationships. This is the meat and potatoes of what I want to convey to you guys. Okay? So I'm going to give you 5 ways in which, if you are in a relationship right now, or if you are thinking about going into a relationship right now, you got someone's number on your cell phone, as early as today, because we got you guys here in the room, I don't know what went on. I don't know, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees the whole situation. My job is to make sure that you are aware of the consequences of your behavior. My job is not to stop you from doing what is haram. You are going to do what you're going to do regardless, based upon your values, as I talked about last night. My job, even with my own children, is not to stop you from doing what is haram, but to make you aware of the consequences of your behavior. After that, you are on your own. And you have to deal with the consequences of your behavior. You guys follow me? Next slide. Number 1, someone read that for me. First way to differentiate between an appropriate relationship and inappropriate relationship is, go for it, that the person that you are in a relationship with respects your boundaries. No matter how far that relationship has gone up to this point, whether it's just phone calls, whether it's just Snapchatting, sharing Snapchats, or whatever the case may be. regardless of how far that relationship has gone up to this very point, you need to understand that if the person doesn't respect your boundaries, they don't respect you. And if you don't have any boundaries,
You don't
then
respect yourself.
I feel sorry for you. You don't respect yourself. Absolutely. If the person doesn't respect your boundaries, they don't respect you. If you don't have any boundaries, you don't respect you. How could you be involved in any relationship? Whether it's a friendship, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a relationship with the opposite sex, it doesn't matter. Anytime you interact with someone else, another human being, there should be boundaries. A person should know how far to go with you based upon the limits that you have set for them. You guys following me? Go ahead, continue reading. Somebody, can you see that? No? Go for it. Resident scholar.
Clear.
You got two of them. Go for it. The first one, here, right here. What's your name? What's your name? Amin and Omar. Omar or Omar? You still on Omar? Okay. Omar with an ayn. Go for it.
Clearly, healthy boundaries help keep us from selfish desires and controlling others, or to protect us from those lacking self-control, which wish to control us.
Clear, healthy boundaries help keep us from selfish desires and controlling others, or to protect us from those lacking self-control who wish to control us. What does that mean? Somebody explain it to me.
It's basically, if someone wants to, like, how do I say this? It's like similar to asking someone for their consent. Consent.
Say it again.
Asking, like, your partner for consent.
Consent to do what?
To, for example,
Consent to do what? Like,
for example,
let's make sure we on the same
no,
page.
for example, say you work, right? And you make money, and your partner wants to buy something, like,
right.
And she keeps taking your money over and over again, and you earned it, and she needs to have a boundary where she has to only take some amount to the point where, like, where that you have to tell her that she can't do that. It's like having a friend who only is your friend only because you have food.
Okay. Okay. That was a mouthful. Okay, so clear, healthy boundaries help keep us from our own selfish desires. Sometimes we get a little selfish. So let me give you an example. In a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, the girl may have made it very clear to you that we can talk, but we're not going any further than that. We can't hold hands, we can't kiss, we're not going to be in the room alone, none of that. She made that very clear to you. Those were her boundaries. However, sometimes, in our own selfishness, we want to go beyond the boundaries that the person has set for us. So I actually want to hold hands. So I totally disregard your boundary and I grab your hand. All right? That's selfish because you are not respecting the boundaries that the person set for you. You follow me? All right? So setting boundaries helps to keep us from transgressing selfishly against other people's boundaries, and it also helps us to protect ourselves from people who want to control us. So if I set a boundary for you, that's telling you don't go any further than that. And if you go any further than that, then this situation that we have going on, and what I'm saying, I'm not condoning boyfriend and girlfriend relationships, but what I am telling you that is that most of you, some of you, and most of you guys that are listening online, you're going to do it anyway. So what I'm giving you is a way for you to discern when you're in a relationship with someone whether or not this is appropriate. Obviously, the whole situation is haram. But we're not going back and forth with the halal haram thing because that's a matter of values. If you have values, you value the Quran and the Sunnah, that it becomes your life if you're spiritually centered. Meaning everything that you do in your life is filtered through your faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then I don't have to explain to you that this situation is haram. But everybody is not religiously centered. Everybody is not spiritually centered. So we have to resort to measures like this. Rather than tell you it's haram, then we're going to give you some principles by which you can navigate your own life. Your parents are not going to always be around. I'm not going to always be around. You're going to go off to college. You're going to go off on your own. And we need to leave you with something by which you can discern whether or not this is good for you or not. You're not going to have your parents there all the time to hold your hand and tell you whether this is halal or haram. If you are a person who is spiritually centered and everything that you do in your life is filtered through your faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you're going to automatically know whether this is permissible or not permissible. That group I'm not talking to. I'm talking to the group that is not spiritually centered. No one prays in your house. No salat going on in your house. Fasting in Ramadan is an option. That's who I'm talking to. I'm not talking about people who parents pray 5 times a day. Ramadan, fasting in Ramadan is mandatory in the home. Boyfriend and girlfriends is not even a factor. It's a non-factor. That's not who I'm talking about. You guys following me? The other thing is that a lack of boundaries invites a lack of respect. What does that mean? Can someone explain that to me? A lack of boundaries invites a lack of respect.
Like if you let somebody like break your boundaries a lot of times, then they're gonna do whatever they want.
Someone else, elaborate. A lack of boundaries invites a lack of respect. I need someone else. Some of you other guys to help participate. Come on. There's scholars sitting in these chairs right here. Open your mouth. Come on. Lack of boundaries from the women. Lack of boundaries invites a lack of respect.
If you let someone walk over you constantly, like they're not gonna value you as a person. And then
No. Look at the statement. A lack of boundaries, meaning you don't even have any boundaries. You are the type of person that allows everyone that comes into your space, everyone that comes into your life that develops a relationship with you, you don't set any boundaries for them. Then what you are doing is you are inviting people to disrespect you. You understand? You're inviting people to talk to you any way that they want to talk about you and business that you share. If you say to the person, I don't like my business being exposed, so if I share stuff with you, please don't, that's one of the quickest ways to show me that you are disloyal to me. I share some information with you, you take it and you go share it with someone else. You do that to me, our relationship is over with. Friendship, it doesn't matter. You set a boundary and you enforce that. And so what you do is you force the person to respect you. You follow me? But if you don't have any boundaries, then you're inviting all types of disrespect into your circle. You let people talk to you any type of way they want to. Right? I have non-Muslim friends that I know from before I became Muslim. When I come around, your blunt goes away. When I come around, whatever you drinking, put it away. Because those are clear boundaries that I made very clear. That if we are going to have any type of relationship, no matter how minuscule, no matter how small it is, you got to respect my boundaries. If you don't, then there is no relationship. Next slide. Someone read that for me. Can you see that all the way back there? Go for it.
My boundaries may be different than yours. You may not understand them. It doesn't mean I'm invalid or inappropriate. Don't judge or then
belittle
when I set offensive.
Different. You would have failed the eye test.
Alright, different than this.
You got it so that you cover one eye. Okay. So, and it says here, my boundaries may be different than yours. This is especially true when you have relationships with people who are not Muslim. And sometimes we got to do this even with people who are Muslim, because we function on different frequencies as Muslims. Different frequencies of spirituality. Sometimes you see Muslims doing stuff and you just like, all right, because you act like a non-Muslim, so I got to treat you as such. Serious. You have non-practicing, I said this before, a non-practicing Muslim is worse than a non-Muslim. I'll say that again. A non-practicing Muslim is worse than a non-Muslim. How? Because a non-Muslim will actually respect the fact that you're Muslim. They'll remind you, hey, isn't it time for your prayer? Here, I got something that you can pray on top of. They'll accommodate you all day long because they realize that that's your faith. It doesn't infringe on who I am, and I can still have a relationship with you. A non-Muslim knows it's time for salat, hoping you do not remind them it's time to pray. So they won't say anything to you. Time for Dhuhr done went in and out. They never reminded you because they feared that if they reminded you it's time to pray, then now it becomes an obligation on them to pray. And they don't want to pray. You follow me? And many other examples. So a non-practicing Muslim in many instances, not in all, but in many instances can actually be worse than a non-Muslim. A non-Muslim doesn't feel any obligation to respect you for what you do. But a Muslim feels like they're obligated because they are Muslim. They identify with Islam. But my boundaries may be different than yours. You may not understand my boundaries. A person may not understand why you don't want to take your hijab off. Your friends may not understand why you don't want to take your hijab off, why you don't want to show how nice your hair is, how beautiful you are without your hijab on. My boundaries are different than yours. You may not understand my boundaries, but it doesn't mean that I'm wrong, I'm invalid, or I'm inappropriate. You guys follow me? As young Muslims, you have to understand the value in boundaries. It doesn't mean that you're weird. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that my boundaries are different than yours. Everybody has boundaries. Mine are just different than yours. You may not understand why I don't want to do that. That's for me to understand, not for you. All right? Don't judge or belittle when I set different limits than you do. This is especially important for Muslim girls who go into a relationship with non-Muslim guys. You set boundaries for the person. You say, listen, it's not going to go this far or that far. The person may not understand because they come from a different lifestyle. In previous relationship with girls, he may have done this or may have done that. And now with you, you set a different boundary for him. No sex before marriage. He might want to say, well, everybody's doing it. Well, I ain't everybody. I'm not everybody. I'm sorry. I don't care what everybody else is doing. You guys follow me? Next slide. Number 2. Can someone read this, please? No, someone from over here. Can someone read that, please? Go ahead.
Who, me?
Yes.
Respect for your values.
Respect for your values. This is number 2. If the person is in a relationship with you and they don't respect your values, then you don't need to be in a relationship with them. Go for it. Continue. Read the quote up top.
Learn my value or see
or
earn my absence. Don't take me for granted.
What does that mean? Learn my value or earn my absence. Don't take me for granted. What does that mean?
If you can't respect me, then I won't be around you.
If you can't respect the things that are important to me, that's what values are. The things that are important to you. This goes for even in a marriage. Because you have people who go into a marriage with each other and they don't respect each other's values. A lot of times it happens in the Islamic community. Muslim woman, she wants to go to college, she wants to get an education, further her education so she can get a good job. He comes in, oh, I don't want my wife to work. Well, listen. For me, a value for me is having financial security. Financial independence. I don't want to have to ask you, as my husband, for every single thing that I need in my life. There are feminine products, feminine things that I need for me. I shouldn't have to come to you as a man for $20 or $50 asking you for money to go get the things that I need for myself. Financial independence is important to me. That's a value. And now you are totally dismissing the things that are important to me. That relationship is not going to work. Value for a man. You may feel, that this is important to you, and you may marry a woman and say, well, listen, I want kids. Well, I don't want to destroy my body. We should have talked about that ahead of time. Children is a value. That's a value of mine. I want someone to carry on my legacy. Well, I don't want children. You are now disregarding the things that are important to me. And obviously, these things should be discussed before people get married. Unfortunately, they don't, because we're in such a rush to get married that we skip from A to Z. Skip all of the letters in between. But if you don't understand what my values are, then you earn my absence. Don't take me for granted. When a person doesn't respect your values, they are taking you for granted. That's what that means. Next slide. You guys understand what values are? So let me go around the room real quick. What's a value of yours? Something that you deem that is very important in your life. Respect. So if a person disrespects you, then what? There is no relationship. We can't even have a friendship. What's a value of yours? Honesty. So that means that if a person lies to you, they're out. No relationship. Because you took me for granted. What's a value of yours? You. Yes. Huh? No, something else other than honesty. Don't say what she say. Say what you say. Trust. So if the person breaks your trust, you can't trust the person, then there is no relationship. What's the value of yours? Modesty. Modesty. For you or for her?
The charger.
Huh? For you. Very good. So if a person doesn't respect your modesty, takes a picture of you without you knowing, and posts it somewhere on the internet, you just violated me. Value of yours?
My religion.
Your religion, my deen. At the top of my values. It's my religion. You don't respect my religion, there can be no relationship between me and you. Not a friendship, not a marriage, not anything. In the back, blue shirt on. What's your value? What do you value? Yeah. Huh?
You said loyalty.
Loyalty. What does loyalty look like for you? Because loyalty means something different to everybody.
You're not 100% with me then.
Huh?
You're not 100% with me.
You're not keeping it 100 with me? Then we're not friends. Very good. So you guys understand what values are. Your job right now at this point in your life is for you to itemize your values and make sure that every other person that is in your life knows what your values are and respects your values. Look into the people that are in your life right now. Do they respect your values? Yes. Do you have friends that trample all over your values?
No, yes.
Absolutely. Then they need to go. Why are they still your friends? Why are they still communicating with you? This is one of the easy ways to do some spring cleaning in your life. Start getting rid of people. Get people out of your life that don't belong there. Number 3, parental involvement. If the person that you are in a relationship with does not respect you enough, and family should be a value. I was waiting for one of you guys to say that. Family is a value. You don't respect my family, you don't respect me. If you do not respect me enough to go and talk to my father, then there can't be no relationship. Family should be at the top of your values. Because you have some people who get married and then they try to pull you away from your family. Isolate you from your family so then that way they can begin abusing you. Pointing out to you why your mother's a problem, your father's a problem, your sisters and your brothers are problems, and they want to get you on an island all by yourself, and then that's when the abuse starts. Family should be at the top of your values. Number 3, parental involvement. If a person cannot respect the fact that in Islam, A woman cannot get married without her father's permission. So when a man comes to you and wants to be in a relationship with you, the quickest way to find out whether or not he's serious about you is, I need you to go talk to my father. I ain't going to talk to him. Bye. Deuces. It's nothing can happen. If you can't at least go have a conversation with my father, it's nothing happening. Nothing happened. Parents have to be involved. If you are in a relationship with someone and it seems like it is serious with that person, you should be comfortable enough to invite that person over to your home and let your family meet this person. You have so many marriages that happen and take place in the Muslim community where the parents don't even know that they're married. Parents don't even know that you went and got married. How does that even happen? How does a woman get married without her father's permission? Puzzling. And then for the converts to Islam, that's a whole other issue. Oh, I don't have a wali. Or I'm going to let my potential spouse, his best friend is going to be my wali. What type of nonsense is that, man? How? But it happens. Even if your family are not Muslims, you should be able to bring that brother to meet your father. Even if your father is a non-Muslim, he still cares about you. Just because he's not a Muslim doesn't mean that he doesn't care about you. Just because he's not a Muslim doesn't mean that he will not tell you when he spots that this man is not good for you. But we'll use, as converts to Islam, we'll use Islam as a means of disregarding and dismissing our entire family. The same family that raised you. The same family that was all you had prior to you becoming Muslim. And then we become Muslim, and somehow now our family is a non-factor in our lives. La wallahi. La wallahi. Even if your fathers are non-Muslim, your brothers are non-Muslims, they still the only men in this dunya that actually care about you. That actually give a damn about you. Next slide. Can someone read this quote by Sigmund Freud? Go for it. Resident scholar.
I cannot think of any need in childhood as strong as the need of their father's protection. Sigmund Freud.
He's our resident scholar. Don't be patient with him. Don't get there.
Fraud.
Fraud? No. Freud. I cannot think of any need in childhood as strong as the need for a father's protection. This is a man who said this about his father. So how much more does Islam emphasize that with girls? Your father is your wali. I don't care how much you dislike his lifestyle, how much he wasn't there for you in childhood and all of that. As you get older, you learn how to use your father for your protection. You force him to play the role that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended for him to play. As a child, you don't have that power to do that. As you get older as a woman, you now have womanly influence to influence your father to do the job that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obligated upon him, and that is to be your protector. To protect you. Alright? So even Sigmund Freud highlighted the fact that there's no need for a child in their childhood stronger than the need of the protection of their father. Next slide. Number 4, probably the most important out of all of these, and that is the risk factors. If you are going into a relationship, a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship with someone, you need to look at the risks and the rewards. Let's talk about the reward. If you go into a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, what are you gaining? A companion, a friend, in some instances, a sex partner. And that's pretty much it. Maybe he spends a few dollars on you. Maybe you spend a few dollars on him. Maybe. What else? Anything else? Any other rewards you get from a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship? Please tell me. I highlighted 3. Somebody to talk to. Late night, send text to. Pics to. Right? If sex is a factor, then there's sex. And if money is a factor, you might both be broke, so money might not even be a factor. Other than those three, what are the other rewards of being in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship? Please tell me. Anything else you get out of it? So those are the only three things that you get out of being in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
Potential happiness.
Potential happiness. Okay.
Temporal happiness.
Temporal happiness. So it's temporary. Because he hasn't given you any commitment, and she hasn't given you any commitment, so it ain't no long-term in it. Long-term happens when commitments are made. I'm committed to you for the rest of my life. And no matter how sweet a guy talks to you as a teenager, he's going to make you believe that he's going to be there. But the next best thing come by, he's gone. Or he might try to have his cake and eat it too. And then you gone. So now let's talk about the risks. What are you risking by being in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship?
Parents' disapproval.
Your parents' disapproval. Okay, that's a big one. You breaking up your family.
Reputation.
Your reputation. Very good. Your iman, your faith, your heart. What else you risk? That's 4 things we listed already. So now what did I just do? I showed you 3 rewards, and now we're already up to 4 risks. If the risks outweigh, and we're talking about in business. Anybody in here in business, college for business? Anybody want to be an entrepreneur, want to be a businessman, businesswoman? Anybody in here want to make money? Okay. Right. How in the world are you going to make money from a product or a company that you're trying to build and your risks outweigh your reward? You hustling backwards, as we say. You got to make sure that the reward outweighs the risks. Therefore, you're willing to take the risks because you realize the risks are not as detrimental. You guys follow me? But if you go into a situation and the risks outweigh the reward, then you are essentially playing yourself. If the only 3 things that you get out of a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship is sex, which might not even be that good. 2 is a companionship. And 3, possibly money. A couple of gifts here and there. That's all you're getting out of that relationship. However, on the flip side of that, what you are losing or what you are risking is, number 1, your reputation. Because quiet is kept. There's a double standard in the Islamic community. Muslim men, Muslim boys are allowed to go and do them. The moment one of you guys get caught committing zina, I don't want to marry her. I'm not marrying her. When you know that your friend smashed, you know that your friend has sex with her, I'm not marrying her. Meanwhile, you done slept with everybody in the neighborhood. That's the double standard in the Islamic community. And meanwhile, when you decide to come back to Islam, you can pick a virgin. Meanwhile, you done lost your virginity 30 women ago. But you now have the luxury to come in and say, I don't want a sister with kids. I don't want a sister who don't have a virginity. I don't want a sister who has this. MashaAllah, how do you have this luxury of picking and choosing what you want? Meanwhile, you did you. That's the double standard, unfortunately, in the Islamic community. But let's look at some of the risks. If your risks are greater than your reward, then the relationship is inappropriate. Don't play yourself. Next slide. So let's talk about some of the things that you're risking. Somebody read this. Oh, somebody over here. Can someone read that? What are you risking in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship? You're risking your virginity. Now, for you guys, that might not seem like a big thing because it makes you seem like a man because you're not a virgin. Right? But the beauty of losing your virginity in a manner that it was haram is that you never get that back. You never get another chance to do that over. And virginity is so important in Islam that Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will restore. For women, will restore your virginity back to you. That's how important it is in our religion. And if you could talk to any woman who lost her virginity in a manner that wasn't proper, and I'm sure any woman would tell you, if I could do it all over again, wallah al-azim, I would have never done it. I would have waited. I would have waited. So you're losing. What are you risking? You're risking your virginity. What's number 2? You're risking your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, مَا زَنَا الزَّانِي حِينَ يَزْنِي وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ. That the person does not commit fornication except that at the time that they're committing fornication, they are not a believer. Your iman leaves you and hovers over your head until you stop doing what you're doing, and then your iman returns back to you. لا يزني الزاني حين يزني وهو مؤمن. That the fornicator does not commit fornication except that at the time they are committing fornication, they are not a believer. You are risking your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is there any human being in this world that is worth your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Nobody. There is no one. I don't care how cute you are. I don't care how gorgeous you are. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how many promises of happiness you make. There is no one on the face of this earth whose relationship is more important than your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And anyone that makes you jeopardize your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't respect you, doesn't respect your values, and should not be in a relationship with you. You guys follow me? Number 3, your relationship with your parents. The second most important relationship in your life after your relationship with Allah is the relationship with your mother. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا. That we have enjoined upon man to be dutiful to his parents. حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ. His mother carried him in difficulty, on top of difficulty. أَنِشْكُرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْكَ إِلَيْهِ الْمَصِيرُ. Be grateful to me, to Allah, the most important relationship, and to your 2 parents, your second most important relationship. Is there any human being on the face of this earth whose relationship is more important to you after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the relationship with your parents? If you are in a relationship with someone and they are jeopardizing your relationship with your parents, then that relationship should be terminated. Guys, follow me? So basically what I'm doing is I'm cornering you. I'm putting you so far in a corner as it relates to boyfriend and girlfriend relationships that after I'm done, you just say, you know what, I'm not going into that. If this is what all being in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship is about, I'm good on that. I'll wait. And some of you are going to disregard what I say, and you're going to go after it anyway. And I guarantee you, everything that you heard here today will resound in your head and in your heart later on. The beauty of hearing is something that you cannot turn off. No matter how much you don't want to hear it. You cannot turn that off. You risk, number 4.
Possibility of going to paradise without visiting the hellfire first.
You risk going to Jannah without making a pit stop at the hellfire first. And for some Muslims, they're okay with that. As long as I get to Jannah. I can go to the hellfire for a few, and as long as I get to Jannah, I'm okay with that. As Allah says in the Quran, سَاءَ مَا يَحْكُمُونَ. How lowly is it that you judge your situation? You would rather go to the hellfire first and then go to Jannah, rather than going to Jannah without actually even touching the hellfire? Some people have already made reservations in their mind that I'm a sin here, I might go to the hellfire, but as long as I die on La ilaha illallah, I'm going to Jannah. The least amount of punishment in the hellfire. Does anyone know what that is? And who gets it? The least amount of punishment in the hellfire.
Killing the legs of the Prophet's uncle who died as a prophet, Abdul Muttalib.
Abdul Muttalib, the Prophet ﷺ's uncle, he will be given the least amount of punishment in the hellfire. And the punishment he will be given is that he will be given sandals made out of fire that will be so hot his brain will boil. That's the least amount of punishment that anyone will get in the hellfire. The Prophet ﷺ said that Allah will take a man from this dunya, dip him in the hellfire and pull him out and ask him, have you ever known any good? And he lived a lifetime of opulence, a lifetime of riches and wealth with Donald Trump's. Dip him in the hellfire, pull him out, ask him, have you ever known any good? And that one lahba, that one little moment in the hellfire will be enough to make him forget 70, 80 years of his life on this earth spent in opulence. For people who say, I can handle the hellfire, I'll do what I do here, and then afterwards I'll make tawbah. But tawbah may never come to you. You may never have an opportunity to commit tawbah, to make tawbah. How many people go into a world of sin, and at the time that they enter that world, they say, I'm going to make tawbah later. But you never get around to making tawbah. You become so engrossed in that world and in that lifestyle that you never actually get around to making tawbah. Some people don't make tawbah until 30, 40 years later. So you're risking the possibility of going to paradise without visiting the hellfire.
Your health, mind, body, and soul.
Your health, your mind, body, and soul. We already talked about your soul, your heart. You're risking your heart. You're risking your soul. You're risking your body, because every time you engage in a haram boyfriend-girlfriend relationship and there's sex involved, you run the risk of catching an STD. You run the risk of getting pregnant. You ruin your education. You ruin your future. How many people had children out of a one-night stand, out of just a one episode of sexual relations, and you ended up getting pregnant? Sometimes you didn't realize that you were pregnant until later on, months later, where you couldn't abort the kid, and you end up having to have the kid with someone who you had absolutely no intentions on being in a relationship with. Can you imagine raising a child by someone who was just a fling, but you stuck with that individual because you had a child by them? More so for the girls than for the guys, because they can get you pregnant and move on with their life. Meanwhile, you stuck with that kid. You're stuck with that. So you're risking your mind, your body, your soul. You're risking your education, your future. All of these are the risks of going into a relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, premarital relationship. You guys follow me? We're just about done. Next one. Number 5, the impact that your choices have on your family. Someone read that, please. Go ahead.
People need to understand that their actions do affect other people, so be careful what you say. It's not always good.
To go into a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship is to be completely selfish, because you are not thinking about how your actions are going to affect the other people in your life. Who are the people in your life that your actions affect the most? Next slide. Your younger sister, who's watching you, especially if you're a girl. Your younger sister's watching you. Text message a boy, send pics of yourself without hijab onto a boy. Your younger sister is watching that. Younger sisters are nosy. They know everything. Facts. They know everything. Your younger sister is watching you. And what you are essentially teaching her is that this is okay. Because you're so busy trying to hide it from her rather than explaining and saying, you know what, listen, I messed up. I went off and I engaged in this situation, but I am no way telling you that this is okay. It's not okay what I'm doing. But we be so engrossed in the haram that we're in, we don't even care about the people who's watching us. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man sanna fil Islam sunnatan sayyi'ah falahu wizruha wa wizru man amila biha wa la yanqusu min awzarihim shay'a." That whoever starts a bad practice in my deen, in my religion, he will have the sin of starting it and the sin of everyone that follows them in it. So what happens when you are engaging in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, your younger sister sees you and decide, I'm going to do it too. So you're not only now responsible for what you did, you're now responsible for bringing somebody else into it now too. What happens when you start selling drugs and your younger brother finds the drugs in your pocket, finds the drugs in your house? How many people who have had weapons in their homes and their younger sibling find the weapon and the gun go off and kill your sibling or hurt your sibling, and you have to live with that? Yeah, facts. So don't look at your actions as you are the only one being affected by that. All right? Your younger brother, your mother, your father. When Maryam brought the child, Isa, to her family, to her community, the first thing they said to her was what? Ya ukhta Harun, ma kana abuki imra'a sawin, wa ma kanat ummuki baghiyya. How could you do this? Your mother, your father weren't known to be like this. How could you do this? You are destroying the reputation of not just you, but your family as well. Because now your parents are known as, the parents who got that child who's off the hook, off the chain. All her kids is off the chain. That's the reputation that some of us have given our parents in the Muslim community. Because of your actions. Next slide. That's it. So you guys understand, it's really important. Like I said, I'm not speaking to those who are spiritually centered, who know the difference between right and wrong. I'm talking to those of our children, you guys, who are still going to test the limits. Regardless of what someone says to you, you're still going to do what you want to do. And I'm saying to you, if in fact you choose to do that, then take some principles with you. Don't just be out there involving yourself in relationships without having some principles and values about yourself. Perhaps at some point all of this will be relevant. Maybe right now this goes in one ear, out the other, not a big deal. But at some point in your life this will be relevant. This is what I wanted to present to you guys, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I don't know if any of you guys had any questions regarding what was presented. I'll take probably three questions. Any questions? None? None? Go. So you can stop the periscope.